Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Trinn Hatch. He's the co-founder of Jumpa Tibetan Pharmacy, and much more than that. I'll leave it at this for now. The full bio will be at the end on the podcast notes down below. So the question that I love asking my guests from the get-go for some reason is, how would you describe who you are in this very moment, Trinn?
It seems like that's always changing in every moment, so it's good to consider it in the moment. But right now, I'm just like everybody else, trying to find my way through life and trying to do as much good as possible and take care of the things that matter, within myself, my physical body, my spirit, my emotional state. But really, who I am is somebody who's on a journey for healing themselves and trying to, share what I learned with others.
Yes, it's a beautiful one, isn't it? The connection between healing, self, personal growth, and spirituality. Do you connect them, healing to spirituality, Trinn?
Absolutely.
And if you do, how do you do that?
Yeah. I was addressing my own physical conditions just purely physically. I wasn't even considering the emotional or the spiritual aspects of healing. And you only get so far, in my experience, when that's your focus. When you start to consider the spiritual aspects and emotional aspects of what may be affecting what's manifesting on a physical level, then things start to change into a more consistent healing trajectory. That was my experience, through my healing process.
Yeah. How do you see this idea of suffering? How do we balance in a way helping ourselves and doing what we can to help others?
Yeah, I think suffering really, in many aspects, it's a catalyst for change. My own suffering led me to the path that I'm on now. It really, really powerful suffering. I really went through it, and if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have had the resolve that I have now to stay on a path of healing for myself and for assisting others to, open up awareness to what paths are available to them. It's really unique for all of us. No two paths are the same, but I believe that there are paths out there for all of us, and we just have to really be aware of what's contributing to our suffering. And when we become more aware of what the contributing factors are, it becomes easier to address them and to resolve them.
So true. Yeah, that's something that I was reflecting, have been for about over a week now, maybe 2 weeks. I've been watching, for some reason, something in me is interested in wildlife. I see your dog back there. I just noticed.
Yes.
Sleeping.
That's
cute.
Gaia, my husky. She's a Siberian husky.
Oh my God. I have a dog too. I mean, he can't fit here. It's too big. But how cute. What's not to love about them? So I've been watching the wildlife. I've been very interested in that. For some reason, something in me, it's probably trying to show me something. So I'm always asking, what's the truth about that? What are you trying to what am I to see here? And then, insights like life and death, because they live within that reality every moment, actually, not just every day. And how gracefully and not so gracefully they deal with that. In a sense of letting go, I see how they let go, faster than humans when it comes to trauma and, death. They grieve, they mourn for a little while, and then they just move on. Yeah, that has been such a deep reflection for me these days. And I wonder, why don't we see life in the same way? This, what we are living now, which we call life, seeing, like you said, suffering as a guidepost, as a sign, pain, being able to investigate, into the nature of what we are feeling at the level of body, mind. So I've been always very curious and open about these things, always investigating, but I see that most people don't do that. It's easy for them to just take a pill, just kind of find a doctor to help them. So I love what you're doing, because this puts the responsibility again, to ourselves. We bring the responsibility of healing to our own selves. And it's an empowering thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. We came across an interesting situation a few months ago. We were helping a lot of people. We do protocols and set up consultations with people, and there were a few people that just weren't responding to the protocols that we'd that we set up for them. And I started to worry and think, what am I doing wrong? And so I went to my teacher, Amchi Thupten Lekshi, and asked him and said, what am I missing, Amchi La? And he went quiet for a few minutes and considered, and he came back and he said, we need to address the heart, because when there's trauma and emotion that gets trapped within the neural network of our hearts, that for some of us can become a block to healing on a physical and emotional level. And so he said we need to address that. And that's actually where the healing heart formula that I think you had a chance to try. Yeah. Where the inspiration for that came from. Yeah. When we introduced that into the protocols of the customers, all of them responded, all of them accelerated their healing trajectory, and the medicines work in the way that they're supposed to. And so that was an interesting lesson for me to learn, and also, became part of my healing journey, because I then had to address what was being stored there that was no longer serving me, as we all do.
Right, going deeper and deeper, right, Trinn, not just stopping anywhere. So what inspired me to the title of this episode, I don't have it here, it's shorter, but this phrase inspired me. I read this in your bio, I believe. Awakening the master healer within each of us in supporting well-lit path to healing of mind, body, and spirit. So awakening the master healer within, that really kind of caught my attention. And it seems like it takes courage, doesn't it, to make that decision. I see people around me, my family, that they are not really open or not willing to try. What would you say, or what do I, like in my case, how we don't want to force, right, people to try things and, or change them. But talk to me about that.
We want it to be a natural process. All of us have an innate wisdom within us. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. All of us have it. It's an innate wisdom that is a self-regulating intelligence within our body and our spirit that lets us know what we need to do to be healthy. Right. And unfortunately, because we put our faith in other people to give us that information, we sometimes become really kind of deaf to that insight and that intelligence. Really, it's always streaming, but we're not always listening. And so one of the key components of the way that our Amchi formulates our products is to awaken those innate healing systems. And by awakening them, they start to communicate in a way that we can perceive. And as we listen a little bit and take on a little bit, more starts to stream through. And usually, in our experience, when that process begins, very, very, very unlikely that they'll do anything but attain the healing that they're looking for, because they're now in resonance with it. And so that's been what I'd say is the biggest factor in people realizing that they have the ability to heal and regenerate themselves within. And what's needed is the right support from the botanical and mineral kingdoms, which is what our bodies are made of. In our biochemistry, it speaks the same language as botanicals. And so it's a conversations that are happening, not just a forced response.
Right. It takes courage too. And at some level, you feel like, you're already there, that there's no change anymore to be made. There's like different levels, I guess, in our journey, right? Where we feel like, no more seeking. I'm already here. Whatever happens to the body, mind, it's fine. But that's a deeper kind of sense of peace anyway, and understanding of truth, I guess. And then you just kind of rest right within this moment. Yeah. And that's it. That's enough.
Yes. I was just going to say, what I've really found with Tibetan medicine specifically is the amount of awareness that goes into the creation process. The spiritual aspects of the formulas are taken into consideration long before the physical aspects are ever even brought together. And that intention, that purity of intention, it translates into a really high vibrational healing support. And that's true of anything in our life. We put that attention and that focus and that awareness on something. Raises our awareness and raises the level that we can interact with it on.
That's true. Yes. With reality, which means our own body, minds being here.
Yes.
So going back to the, I have too many questions for you. I have my notes here and way too many questions. But also I'm curious about, things that I have learned too. So I really appreciate you being open. So the healing heart, balancing energy, mind, heart. So when he talked the Tibetan medical physician that you work with, that you call him a spiritual, he has actually 50 years of experience, which is amazing. He's a spiritual director, a lab director, and master formulator of Jampa Tibetan Pharmacy.
He does a lot. He does a lot more than that, but those are
Really?
three easy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's an amazing, wonderful human being, and it's this what we're doing is really the culmination of 50 years of his work and investigation and applied insight into healing with botanicals and minerals, and it's beautiful to watch it all unfold, and for him to be able to express that in the way that it's being expressed. It's truly something to be grateful for, because Tibetan medicine has never had an expression like this in the West. It was repressed, previously, and wasn't able to be here in the way that it is now. But we've managed to move through all of those obstacles, and now are able to offer, what's kept Tibetans healthy for 2,500 years.
Yeah. So times are changing.
Yes.
You see that clearly? We
Absolutely.
can feel that too. Yes.
Yeah.
In a beautiful way. So he mentioned, my curiosity was the heart, healing the heart, the energies of the heart, balancing them. What are the causes of heart energy imbalance? What would that be?
A lot of it, a lot of what we've experienced, at least within the work side of it, relates to childhood. And a lot of things some people remember, but intuitively, in the working with people, I can see that there are things that they're not even aware of in their childhood. And in my experience, they don't even have to be aware of it for the formula to work. Healing heart is really helping to dissolve those emotions and those traumas and activate a higher torus field activation, which expands the energy of the heart and keeps it open. It's a profound formula. I've used it myself. I've dealt with PTSD for 12 years, and at the time that we made that formula, I was experiencing what I now know was spike proteins from conventions and things that we were going to, and so my heart was under duress, and I was having like 3 or 4 heartbeats out of sync, and waking up in the middle of the night and almost feeling like my heart was going to explode, and I couldn't figure out what was causing that, and it's that same conversation that we had about the healing heart. He said, you need to support your heart because you're dealing with chronically ill people that don't have any other options. They're on their last chance. A lot of them feel, and that's a lot of emotion and a lot of trauma that they're experiencing. And you're an empathic person, and you're gonna pick some of those things up. And so, in using that formula, that was resolved quickly within a few weeks. And in the extended use of the formula, my small things with the PTSD that I'd still dealt with, just little triggers that hadn't quite been dissolved, just gently disappeared, and it's left me with a clean slate. I would liken it to a blank canvas that I can paint a new painting on.
Yes. Wow, I love that. What's not to love about it? The journey again of the heart, right? So it's curious to know that you said that happens in childhood, a lot of the traumas that we experience, and throughout life, of course, and then you mentioned also something about picking up the energy, so feeling the sadness, right, of the suffering around us that often happened to me, and I don't think I don't know yet what to do. Maybe that's why I was the first one that really caught my attention, right?
I was hoping you catch on to that. That's really a healer's formula. Anybody that's doing healing work or supporting others on their path, it's nourishing your own heart, so you still have plenty to give. You're not running the tank out dry.
Right. Yeah, that's what I felt. How interesting. That was the first one. I mean, the happiness one too. Like, you're like, oh, that one, that's joyful. I love the package too. It's beautiful, though. I have to show you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, those pills are the traditional Tibetan pills that have been made in the monasteries for thousands of years. So we actually import them directly from monasteries in Nepal and Bhutan and even Siberia. And, we distribute them in the West. We have about 30 or 40 of their traditional pills available on our website.
Wow. And I wonder why they were not allowed to be accessed by, Westerns. What was the main issue with that? Same as psychedelics, you would say?
I don't know all the facts, but what I do know is that one of the head Tibetan physicians came to the U.S., I think in the 70s or the 80s, and was having conferences and teaching and sharing the wisdom, and they brought some of the Tibetan medicines with them. And somehow one of the governing bodies, the government got wind of it and came and closed them down and told them to leave the country and put the pills on a do not import list. And so that stopped the them from really being here on a large scale. Things have changed,
Yeah.
and it's not as difficult as it was then. But it was a pretty not good situation for a lot of Tibetans and Tibetan Buddhist practitioners that would like to experience their own healing system but weren't able to.
Right.
And Amchi is really, Amchi's been here kind of under the radar, providing that service for the last 50 years. And, he's really been a torch holder for Tibetan medicine in the West.
Yes, how wonderful. How did you meet him? I have an idea, of course, because I read the bio, but for the audience.
It's a long story, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
Basically, we've been in business, my wife and I, Karina, for about 2 years. We were formulating CBD and terpene products, and we're having great success and seeing very, very good results. But as I started to become aware myself of the botanical and mineral kingdoms and how much more we weren't tapping into, I decided I needed to go and learn and learn that. And so I enrolled in a herbology course and told my wife, and she said, "How are you going to go and study for a PhD and work 12 hours a day and have time for your
Yes.
family?" And I said, "Okay, that's true, but we need this if we want to do what we want to do, and that's help people heal mind, body, and spirit. Then we need to use everything that nature has to offer." And she said, "Well, you always like manifesting stuff. Why don't you just manifest somebody who already knows how to do it?" And I said, "Well, it's not that easy, sweetheart." She said, "Yes, it is." I said, "All right, well, look, let's do that." And so the conversation ended. About 2 weeks later, we hadn't done anything about it or even mentioned it again. And we were at an event in Arkansas on the crystalline grid there. And a lady in our group said, "I feel like we should have a gratitude ceremony and manifest something for humanity. So everybody write down something on a piece of paper and ask the universe to bring forward what you feel humanity needs at this time." And so I can't remember exactly what the words were. I wish I had remembered, but I wrote down something to the effect of, "I want to manifest a master healer, a master of herbal wisdom." I didn't even have a better term for it at the time.
Yeah.
Somebody that I have good karma with, somebody that there's resonance from past lives with, somebody who I can connect with on a deeper level, because I was really worried about having a business partner and the egos getting involved and whether they're focused on money or on healing and all those things. And so we wrote it down and burnt it in fire. And 2 weeks later to the day, my wife came into my office and said, "Do you know a guy named Amachi?" I said, "Who?" And she said, "This guy just LinkedIn messaged me. I forgot I even had a LinkedIn account. And he said that his guides had brought us to his attention and he wanted to come and visit us at our facility." And she was like, "Who are his guides?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We'll have to find out." So we responded to the message, and that started a communication that didn't end. It was daily, sometimes 10 to 20 to 30 emails of teaching every day. And that kept on for about 2 or 3 years before I think we had a break because we had to go away on a business trip. But Amchi came to our facility, and as soon as he walked in, the only thing I could say it's like is, imagine seeing your best friend from high school. You went to school with him for 4 years, and then you didn't see him for 50 years. And then they walk through the door, and you don't even recognize them, but you know the energy, and you're like, "Wait a second, there's something about you."
Right.
And that was really the feeling that I had, and it was also the feeling that he had. And he started to really just teach us and help us understand, and we saw the value there. And after about a year, we had a conversation and came to an agreement that we were in the same path and that we should bring our companies together and create a new expression of plant medicine. And that was the beginning of our journey.
Wow. Yeah, here we are, right? Here
And
we
here we
are.
are. Yeah.
Amazing. You see, this is some people call it destiny or call a calling, the soul's purpose. I don't know, but it's something that if we listen, we will know, right? It's like, I love the synchronicity.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's the word I would use to describe it, the synchronicity. It's things just get pulled together, and when you're aware that they're being pulled together and you put some attention on them, the magic just happens.
That's it. Right. That's beautiful to hear too. You say loving kindness is at the core of everything we do. Are you a Tibetan Buddhist these days?
I mean, I'm a practitioner. Yes, I am. Yeah. But I don't consider myself one of anything. I feel like there's validity in all spiritual paths, and I honor them.
Mm-hmm.
And I study other spiritual paths. We were talking about Vedanta earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
But I like to do what works. And for me, there's a very strong resonance with Tibetan Buddhism, the mind body connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that really drew me into Tibetan Buddhism was a really wonderful Lama named Lama Yeshe. And he just gave a teaching once. A Westerner asked him about psychedelics and plant medicine and said, is this bad? Should we be doing this? And he said, well, you can go and do all the plant medicine you want, but until you actually go within and do the
Mm,
work,
yeah.
that won't change anything. And I thought, whoa, okay, that sounds a lot harder, but it makes
Yeah.
more sense to me. And so I started on that path of self introspection and meditation and spiritual practice, and that got me so much further, really so much quicker than any plant medicine experiences that I've ever had.
Right. I love the insight about the healing heart, balancing the heart, because I often find myself kind of feeling too much in a sense of
Hmm.
compassion, empathy, and then joy kind of goes away, dissolves, because I just get myself. Yeah, and then I love the word balance is here. So it's not really trying to not feel anything, right, Trent? Because feeling is what we do with this body
Yeah,
mind, but it's how we dance with it, how we direct those energy, the
yeah.
movement of that.
Our perception and perspective of what's happening. You change your perspective, change the way you're looking at things. The things you look at change.
Right,
It's the
right.
same within your mind as well. Try to see things from a different angle, and things become easier to understand and process and integrate.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, well said, clearly said. Yes. So I want to go back to my outline here because I could talk to you forever in a non-linear way, in a spontaneous way. But I want to. There's something else that you said. Oh, yeah. I would love to hear about your mother's journey. So it was remarkable that word was used. I would love to hear about that too.
Yeah, my mother, she about 12 years ago had a brain tumor, a pineal gland tumor,
Yeah.
and they operated on it. They got most of it out, but during the operation, a clot formed in her visual cortex and also one at the base of her neocortex, and they both stroked out, and she died on the table. She was brought back after a few minutes,
Mm.
but she lost her vision completely. She didn't know where she was. She lost most of her short-term memory. Didn't even know who my dad was, her husband. And we put her in. We helped her get her faculties back. She was able to walk and speak and function and recognize people, and that took years and plant ceremonies and
Yeah.
lots of medicine. But every neural ophthalmologist in the world that we took her to said that you cannot regenerate neurons in the visual cortex. It's just impossible. And actually told her to just go home and get comfortable being blind. And
Wow.
if you know my mother, she doesn't like being told things like that. And she really used it as fuel. And she told him, well, I'm not going to let you tell me what my fate is. I'm going to decide that for myself. And
Mm.
that was it. We didn't take her to any more neural ophthalmologists after that. But in my mind, I was still searching, and in my heart for something to, help my mother heal. And so about 6 months into working with Amchila, we made our first formula, a Tibetan antibiotic called Turquoise Dragon, and we were just blown away by how wonderful it was. And he said, what should we make next year, Ma? I thought, wow, I can pick whatever I want. And I'm thinking, well, this, and this. And my mom was just, I didn't want to be selfish, but I thought, you know what? She's a wonderful woman and she deserves it as much as anybody. And what we create for her will help other people. And so I said, can we create something that, will regenerate neurons in the visual cortex? And he said, why do we need to do that? And I said, because she's blind. She needs to get her vision back. And he said, oh, we can help her get her vision back. I went, okay. And he started formulating a formula that's now called White Elephant.
Yeah.
And we gave it to her and tested it with her. And within 3 months, her executive functions in her brain, her coordination, everything changed. She went from having a hard time just getting around to riding an electric bike at 25 miles an hour through the St. George canyons with
Amazing.
with 35% vision in one eye and 50% in the other. And that's after 2 years of using the formulas. She's now in studies in Australia and also in upstate New York in universities, and they're trying to figure out how it's possible for her to be able to see without neurons. And she's actually developed an anomaly in medicine they call liquid sight, and somehow she's able to perceive and see through
Gosh.
through her eyes. And so, that gives you a little bit of an insight into the regenerative power of Tibetan medicine. But even with that being said, the medicine didn't heal her. She healed
Mm,
herself. It was the medicine that catalyzed and gave her what her body needed to be able to affect that healing. And that's really true for all of us. When we experience healing, it's going on within, and the things that we're putting into our bodies are just assisting the process.
that's amazing. Wow. Of course, a lot of people know about Tibetan medicine, and of course, I'm also very much aware of that, but I didn't know it was here already like this.
Mm.
So that was amazing to meet you and see that here. So the body's rearranging its own energy. So there's a realignment, it seems to me, when we kind of give the body what it needs, as you said.
Yeah, it's our self-regulating and healing systems coming back into balance and
Yeah.
vibrance and vitality. And then we just got to get out of the way and let our body regenerate and heal and give it the good things that it needs and try to keep the things that are not going to serve that healing process out of the mix.
Mm.
And it just takes time. In my experience, everything is addressable with time.
Yeah. The other thing that gets in the way, it's worry, isn't it? The fear, because so many of
Yeah.
us, when we get diagnosed with something, and then fear sets in, and then we'll change again, the body structure will change. So,
hmm
talk to me for a moment about that, how fear affects the body, and why it's not a good thing to worry too much.
Yeah, fear, anxiety, worry. It's using up energy that could be directed to our self-healing and regulating systems within. And, it just doesn't serve any part of the healing process. Sometimes our anxiety and worry can get us onto the path, but once we're onto the path, it's really important to pacify and quieten down those voices and those interruptions.
Yeah, I like that. Quieting those voices. Yeah. And in your case, I know you experienced PTSD, and that's something that a lot of people, including myself, also have experienced it. So, and that has very much to do with trauma, of course, and fear, right? So that's in the body. So fear is not only in the mind. We think it's only thoughts, that expresses through worries and all that memories, but it's in the body too. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing that you see science is really recognizing now. It's almost
Yeah.
like the whole body is the brain. It's not localized.
And that's a big part of why meditation is so important. Within Suwa Rigpa, the Tibetan healing science where foundational is, you have to address the mind by meditating to pacify and bring down that stress and that worry and that anxiety.
Right.
When it's there, it's clouding the inner guidance that we have from our innate healing systems. And so for myself, I really wasn't a meditator before I met Amchi, and he introduced me to the correct way of proceeding with meditation. And now if I don't meditate, I feel like I didn't put my clothes on for the day. It's like,
Mm,
what's missing? Before I had to force myself to get in there, but there's so much value in just sitting in awareness
yeah.
and observing our thoughts rather than becoming subject to them like we do when we go into a fear or anxiety or a worry state. And for me, that's been a huge part of the healing process is the internal process of addressing things in our minds and in our hearts. The medicine catalyzes and helps speed that process up, but it's still something that all of us have to do at some point.
Yeah. So you offer a free 15-minute consultation. If you mention Fit for Joy, that you have seen this interview in Fit for Joy, so that's something that I want to mention. He will be on a podcast notes too. But what would be that process, the free consultation?
Yeah, it's real simple. We just get an idea of what you're dealing with, which body systems are affected. We look at the physical aspects of what you're dealing with, as well as the emotional and spiritual aspects. Then consider what you're using or what you're taking or what you're doing to address the issues, if anything. And then we come up with a suggested protocol, which is something that you would follow for people with acute conditions, generally 10 to 30 days.
Yeah.
For chronic conditions, usually 90 days would be one protocol. And we'll offer that. We'll offer that to anybody who's in need, and then we'll continue with a phase 2 protocol for the few people that will need extended healing after that 3-month period. But for the
Right.
most part, 3 months seems to be the period of time it takes for people to begin and to continue on a long-term healing trajectory. And what I mean by that is people being able to continue their healing process without having to take something forever. a medicine or a formula or a product. But it's really important to us that we educate people on how to continue that healing process with their own diets, their own environments, meditation, yoga, whatever the spiritual practice may be. Because, we're a lot different to most companies in that, we're not a revolving door. We don't have clients that have to come and buy something off us every week just to live a normal life. We help them establish that healing trajectory and then continue and complete it. And then the power is back within themselves. They can make those decisions again to be healthy, to make the right things part of their lives, to keep that illness or sickness or disease away.
Mm. Thank you so much for doing what you do, for being this expression in this reality. Thank you. As humanity, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
So we are not done yet. I tend to be devotion in the middle of the interview. So I want to go back and ask, okay, so the products that you have, I love that, like you're saying, it's not something that people will have to depend on. So it's just a way of almost like making the healing process easier and gentle. I see kindness. You see, you talk about loving kindness. That's exactly the symbology of the work that you're doing. So it's just open up the path in a very gentle way. And we know that some paths are not as gentle. Ayahuasca, I have heard, I never take them that, but it's not a gentle teacher. Some teachers are not gentle. This one is, it feels to me that way. Oh, you're about to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, I spoke to somebody yesterday, I think, about an ayahuasca journey. And they came back and they weren't able to meditate. They weren't able to do their yoga. They were their energy was just scrambled. I don't know where they went, but they didn't have a good experience. And so they're now using the healing heart to bring themselves back into alignment. This morning in our conversation, I tried it and seemed something changed, but I don't know if it was the formula or maybe my prayers were working, but
yes.
Probably both.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Of course. Everything's connected, right? The interconnectedness of it all. So, yes. So I just talked to somebody recently about that, and he said about, some teachers are gentle, some are not. And sometimes it depends on what you're ready to, receive. So I love the idea of gentleness and kindness. So I'm really not fond of anything that would teach me anything in a harsh way. That wouldn't work.
Ayahuasca is kind of like it's like a drum, right? It's real loud and real heavy and it really gets into you. And Tibetan medicine, these formulas are like a symphony. There's 35 instruments in there, 35 rare and precious botanicals, some that you'll never even be able to find if you tried to find them online to buy them yourself. And that's playing a tune that speaks to the biochemistry innately within your own body. And that tune is masterful at supporting and facilitating healing, not just of the body, but the mind, body, and the spirit.
Right. Yeah. You see that again, the interconnectedness of it all. We need to touch all levels, right? Not just one. Yes. So I wanted to ask you a question. Let me see my outline here. So the core principles of Tibetan medicine, I think we talked about this, didn't we? It's safe too, right?
Very safe. Yeah.
There's no
very
side
safe.
effects.
No, this is you like I mentioned a few minutes ago, your body is communicating at an innate level with these medicines. It's not like a Western pharmaceutical where you take this chemical that cuts off this receptor and you don't feel this pain. It's really targeted at the causal level of whatever's causing the imbalance, whether that's a physical or an emotional or a spiritual need. And we use protocols with people that are terminal, using really sophisticated Western medications that have all kinds of interactions. And we don't cause any interactions. If anything, our formulas will help those medicines to work better and also to pacify the negative symptoms that they may be experiencing from those medicines. And that's been my experience for, close to the last 5 years. We haven't had one interaction or one negative experience with somebody who's been thrown out of balance because of something that we've given them. And that's, beautiful, because in my own experience, I've had lots of experiences trying out other people's products and not had a good experience. So that was important to me from the start.
So you have your own experience. So that makes a huge difference in the business that you're in, because you and your wife, both of you actually tried, and your mother, of course. So you have so much to show as that experience evidence, right? It's personal.
That's right.
So Yes, another question. Children, can we use your products? The Jumpa pharmacy, Tibetan pharmacy, can be used even animals, children, animals. I'm just wondering. I have a dog.
Yeah, we have a pet line of CBD products. The human
Oh,
products shouldn't be used for pets. They have different enzymes in their stomach that will react to some of the botanicals. But yes, the products are safe for children. We recommend for children the non-CBD versions. Obviously consult with your naturopath and get some guidance if you're under the care of a naturopath. Most naturopaths that hear about us, they give us a call. We have a 15 or 20-minute conversation, and they end up, getting themselves some samples because they want to try it out.
yeah.
And then some naturopaths will just let us know after 3 or 4 months of working with the client that your products are amazing. It seems that they're really integrating well with what we've given them. Can we open up a conversation about carrying your products or working with you? So it's one of our best marketing techniques is somebody showing up to a naturopath and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
Yes,
And then
right.
having them investigate and say, "Well, this is definitely unique and different. And if it is what it is, then you probably found something that's going to be helpful."
Mm. So yeah, it's very open, of course. Yeah, the ingredients are all clean and there's no side effects. I love that idea too. So going back to this one because I want to try this next,
Yeah.
the happiness of mind pills. Like I said, I love the color. I love the design, of course. Yeah, that's the spiritual symbols there, and then the fact that they are round. I don't know why, but as you see, my mandala, I love mandalas, and
Yes.
yeah, like little balls. So how often do we take it for the first time? Like in my case, Trinn.
Usually it's 2 pills. And if you like tea, you can put them into some boiled water.
Oh yeah,
Just crush it up with a fork, stir it, and drink it that way.
yeah.
Those pills, I mean, they literally taste like the Himalayas. If you went and pulled up a plant out of the dirt and ate it, that's what you'd be feeling. What you'd be tasting. It transports me back to a place I haven't even been in this life, but I feel like I'm there when I have those.
Mm,
They're
that's
actually very, very profound for the heart as well. The mind heart interconnectedness, but people who have arrhythmia in their hearts, electrical issues, very, very soothing and supportive for those things.
wow. So try two of them, like in a
Two
tea
of them.
form. I love tea. Yeah, that's all I
Yeah.
drink. I don't drink caffeine. So this will be amazing. And I heard before that some people, I think it was Louise Hay, I think she said, about heart disease and people who die from heart attacks and all that, that's because they didn't have enough joy in their lives. So the heart, it supports the feeling of joy. So that makes a lot of sense. You would call happiness of mind pills. And those two caught my attention, the healing heart and this one.
They're very similar.
Yeah,
Very similar.
yeah.
Yeah, the healing heart is a little bit more of an advanced formula for it. It just covers more bases with spiritual, emotional, and physical. There's a whole list of the physical aspects of heart healing that the formula does. It's pretty extensive and amazing. So for people who've had a stroke or are prone to a stroke, either one
Yeah.
of those formulas will really keep your body fortified to not have that happen.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to try because I watched the documentary about mushrooms, about, yeah, mushrooms and how amazing they were. And then I interviewed somebody here and then he sent me a bunch of things and then I start taking it, but I didn't feel well.
Mm.
Something happened and I was dizzy.
Like psilocybin mushrooms?
I tried psilocybin microdosing with psilocybin before
Uh-huh.
too, but I felt dizzy too. And
Mm.
it really didn't work. And then I
Yeah.
tried, I think lion's mane
Mm.
and the other one was turkey tail, all those things, and then all the other ones, but it didn't work with me. I just
Mm.
didn't. They said it's great for the brain and all that, but it's fascinating how some people bodies are different, right? We're
Yeah.
not all made the same.
Sometimes energy matters. Mushrooms are one of those areas
Yeah.
that can really hold energy. So where you're getting them from, how they're grown, who's living in the place where they're grown, the arguments that take place there,
Oh wow.
everything can become part of that energetic experience. And so that's why with our formulation and everything we do, we're empowering the spiritual energy of every step of the process so that isn't possible to happen. It's only pure, beautiful, vibrant source energy, which catalyzes and supports the healing potential of all the formulas, even more so than just the botanicals by themselves.
Yes. Ah, that's wonderful to know. So that probably was the reason. Yeah, I felt something. I continue to take because of the, the science behind mushrooms and all. But you're
Mhm.
right. Is where we how they are being produced, how they are being harnessed. That's nurtured in a way. So that's really good to know. I will continue to try your products, and I want to thank you again for doing what you do, for being open. It's really open. I know you went through a lot, and you and your wife, you're just open to try this, and that again that asking those deep questions, asking for guidance. That's
Mhm.
another thing that intuitive knowing that we need guidance in this realm. So that's also beautiful to see. That's the spiritual piece that came up to me like clearly that you're very connected with those energies. So thank you so much again for being you, Trinn, and for saying yes to this today.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Valerie. It's been wonderful to spend time with you, and I really appreciate our conversation. And thank you.
Yes, I feel the same way. So I also want to mention, so the website is jampha.com. So the link will be clickable on the podcast notes. Also,
Mhm.
the 15-minute conversation, the link will be here too, Fit for Joy. Just mention Fit for Joy. And we also have a discount code that's also Fit for Joy, all the letters together, all one word. And
Mhm.
you receive a 20% off your first purchase, which is very generous of you, Trent. Thank you so much also for
Yes, you're
that.
welcome. And if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to email us. It's the easiest way for most people to communicate. And that email address is just love, at jampha.com.
Okay, so that's when I'll have that email here too on the podcast notes. Thank you so much again for your presence, and we'll talk soon. We'll meet
Okay.
again. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now. Bye
Bye.
for now.